Hello, my name is Bryan Stapleton, and I had the honor to work with the National Park Service at Mount Rushmore National Memorial. While we all know Mount Rushmore for the carvings, there are over 1,000 different climbing routes on site that are not part of the official program. Park staff expressed some concerns about safety and environmental impact, while affirming that sustainable facilities should exist for this group of visitors. To that end, I assembled a GIS atlas with all the data and analysis layers relevant to backcountry projects at Mount Rushmore and have some design interventions to improve safety and visitor experience. Onto the GIS atlas. I pulled data from Esri's Green Infrastructure Initiative layers, which show various amounts of habitat and their relative quality. I also pulled data from the USGS Web Soil Survey. Here you can see the unit descriptions, the restoration potential. Soils on site have high potential for restoration and are slightly fragile. Moving on, you can see that there are not very many backcountry hiking trails on the existing site. There's one spur trail that leads out to the Black Hills National Forest. Existing visitor trails are all paved and only take visitors from the parking area to the various areas around the visitor center and museum, as well as a little nearly half-mile loop around to get a better view of the faces. However, there are some unofficial trails. All Trails has a route to Old Baldy Mountain, which runs from the Wrinkled Rock climbing area parking lot. And there's a significant amount of social trails that have been created to access climbing crags. You can also see that there are several pull-off parking areas along Highway 244. Additionally, I used LiDAR data from the national map to get contours for the site, as well as calculate the slope for every square meter of the site. I use these slope calculations as well as some other GIS tools to create water channelization flow lines. These are not streams, but they show where water flows when there's surface runoff. You can also see the erosion points that the National Park Service mapped back in 2020. Back to data from the Web Soil Survey, these analysis layers show the soil degradation susceptibility, soil rutting hazard, soil compaction susceptibility, and road and trail erosion hazard on the site. As you can see, the soils, as shown earlier, are relatively fragile and are susceptible to most of these things in most places. Onto some analysis layers. As you can see, by combining data layers from the USGS Web Soil Survey analysis underneath the social trail network, you can see that the social trails run on areas that are susceptible to compaction, degradation, erosion, and rutting. Here I've layered several different data layers, including social trail network, climbing crag area locations, parking areas, as well as erosion points there on the right. By layering these, we can see that the social trail network generally is there to access the climbing crags. However, it doesn't do a super great job of that all the time, and there's some redundancy and inefficiency built into the trail. Also, the majority of the erosion points are along these social trails in areas of steep slope, as you will see later. Here you can see that while flow lines and water significantly contribute to erosion points, if you look off to the right, where slope and flow lines, erosion points are all layered together along with the social trail network, places with erosion are more likely to occur on steeper slopes. And this can be because of water flow, but it can also be because of heavier wear from people walking. I layered all of these points onto a 3D model on Google Earth so I could better understand what the site actually looked like as I was running some analyses. By analyzing the social trail network based on walkability, ease of access, if it maintains slope, if it avoids points of heavy erosion, and other criteria, I was able to rank them into 3 different categories: areas or sections of trail that should be maintained and improved so that they do not degrade the landscape further or do not begin to degrade the landscape; areas that should be removed because they are in poor condition, run over adverse territory, or up incredibly steep slopes; or areas or trail sections that are redundant and not necessary for the overall network. By removing these, it will reduce environmental impact and simplify the trail network to better accommodate wayfinding and reduce the potential of getting lost. In purple, there are trails that I'm proposing to be built. These reach areas that are not currently serviced by the social trail network, and also incorporate a few more scenic routes to improve visitor experience, as well as avoiding heavily sloped areas to prevent future erosion. Off to the right, you can see the social trail network, or as after it has been re-edited and redone, the climbing access trail network on my framework plan. It reaches all of the important climbing areas, as well as incorporates a entrance plaza up by the parking lot to encourage people to go up there and gather in that central location. Several trailhead signage locations are identified as good points where people might park at some of the nearby pull-off parking. This would allow visitors to park there, or if the parking lot up by the main access was full, to still have access to signage and information about the site, as well as log into the backcountry log in case something happens. Finally, we'll move on to the more site-specific design interventions. The Trailhead Plaza is just a little plaza for people to gather at and for there to be a big draw to the main trailhead. This will be where most of the information is, as well as have better access to parking. Park staff identified that sometimes climbers will park off to the side of the highway in unsafe ways, and by creating an area where there is a reason to go and park by this for the shelter, for the picnic tables, for a convenient place to gather and make sure you have all of your gear, it will encourage people to come and park in the designated parking areas rather than off to the side of the road. As you can see, it would be a nice shelter with informative signage and seating leading off onto the trail network. Additionally, there are several points where the trail network crosses the road, and these locations, particularly where I have identified it would be good to have trailhead signage. Trailhead signage would be moved off the road so that it wouldn't be damaged by moving cars, as well as to encourage people looking at it to be away from the road, which will improve safety. Signage would be incorporated on the trail and then along the road to warn both walkers or hikers and drivers that there may be potential conflicts. There may be a car coming down the road, or there may be someone walking across the road. That's pretty much it for my GIS Atlas and backcountry design interventions for Mount Rushmore National Memorial. Finally, I'd like to just say a few words about myself. As I said earlier, I'm Bryan Stapleton. I'm originally from Lexington, Kentucky. And really, I fell in love with landscape architecture here at Purdue because I realized that I could have a meaningful impact on people's lives, whether that be people in the city or people out climbing at Mount Rushmore. I'm indebted to those here at the university who have taught me my skills, who have allowed me to succeed on my co-op and to have a good job going forward back at my co-op firm, Hitchcock Design Group. And I would like to thank them for their time and effort, and I will be forever grateful to those who make this program great. Thank you for your time listening to my senior capstone project in landscape architecture here at Purdue University. I hope you have a wonderful day.